for joining us for Community Link. I'm Carolene Mays. As a survivor of domestic violence, I hold deep appreciation for the vital efforts of the Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Across the state, the organization provides support for survivors, strengthens prevention initiatives, and drives systemic change to address domestic violence. In light of the increasing crisis hotline calls, shelter demand, and recent high-profile cases, ICADV is joining Community Link to shed light on the current trends, safety planning resources, and the urgent need for community for your help. Let's welcome Laura Berry, Executive Director of the Indiana Coalition of Domestic Violence. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Absolutely. So, Laura, can you give us a sense of what ICADV is seeing regarding crisis calls and shelter demand?
Absolutely. In the last several months, we have seen a significant increase in requests for services through our crisis line. Any given day here in Indianapolis, our crisis lines are receiving 500 calls a day.
What?
Extraordinary numbers, with the majority of those trying to seek safe place to come to, so a shelter bed or facility where they can escape the violence.
So what options are available when the shelters are full? That many calls a day has to have shelters full.
Absolutely. So this has been an ongoing issue for us within our work. The biggest source of our problem is lack of safe and affordable housing where we can move survivors to open up emergency bed space for our survivors to come into in these high lethality and crisis situations. So alternate options are that we're having to really lean into community supports, families, churches, and a hotel network to provide immediate safety for survivors who need to escape that violence.
Yeah, so there have been some really high-profile cases lately, like Walter Monnery. Many are asking how repeat offenders continue to fall through the cracks or get through those cracks. Will you explain some of the systemic gaps and what Indiana can do better to protect survivors?
Absolutely. So we are seeing repeat offenders who are getting back out, either on no bond or low bond, out into our streets. Some of the systems gaps that we're seeing is not a proper assessment of the lethality risk that that individual poses to the victim. Oftentimes, if we just took a few moments to ask the survivor, has there been a high risk of lethality? Has strangulation been used? Has there been threats of homicide or suicide? These are areas that we could really beef up that would help the courts make a decision. Maybe this person needs to stay incarcerated and not released back out onto the street. Other areas of protection would be increasing, getting our protective orders signed and filed quickly, making certain that we have resources and accesses for survivors to go to, so when the individual is released, they're in a safe place to do that.
And that the survivor is contacted when they're released.
That is a big issue, right? So survivors have the right, anybody who's been arrested for a violent crime has a right to be contacted and notified when released from jail and custody. So making certain that that notification is done and done quickly so that that survivor or that individual can get to a safe place.
With ongoing challenges in funding, what can individuals and businesses do to help fill those gaps?
Well, that's a great question. Our programs are going to be facing catastrophic funding cuts next year, which really could see a reduction in services and or the closure of so many programs. We really need to lean into our community, to our volunteers, to survivors to help create that network of a grassroots mobile advocacy to support survivors, for businesses to step up and provide volunteer resources and funding to our local programs so we can continue to operate.
So quickly, beyond shelters and hotlines, what does your organization do to prevent violence and support long-term safety?
Sure. Some of the wonderful things that we get to do is primary prevention, getting to the root causes of what causes domestic violence in the first place. And we know community connections do that. So we have had the luxury and the wonderful opportunities to build parks, to bring communities together that's reducing violence, working on policy initiatives within the legislature really to prevent future violence and add protections within our state.
So in our next 15 seconds, if someone is in an abusive situation that is watching, what are some steps that they can take?
So if you're in an abusive situation, if it's a crisis and it's threats of serious injury, call 911. Law enforcement will be there to support you. But if not, call a crisis line and reach out for resources to support you in your journey to becoming a survivor.
Thank you so much, Laura. So
Thank you.
appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you need help, please look at our website or look up the Domestic Violence Crisis Hotline. And thank you for joining us for this week's Community Link. To share this story or learn more, please head to wishtv.com. We'll see you next week.